Hey guys, welcome back to Psychic Celluloid Signals, and we are at the theater to see the premiere of
Happy Death Day! Happy Death Day, everybody! Yay!
We're cautiously cautious about this film. I feel like we're not optimistic, but we're not pessimistic about it. We're like, let's go see how this is. It looks interesting, sounds interesting. I always thought that the movie Groundhog Day needed more blood.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see that in this.
One can hope.
Yes. And let's hope it brings some new interesting stuff to the table.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out.
All right, so we just got back from seeing
Happy Death Day!
and that was really pretty good.
It was, surprisingly.
I was, to be honest, going into this, I felt like it was either going to be okay or not very good. But I was pleasantly surprised.
As was I.
Yeah, this film,
It had the scares, it was funny,
Mhm.
it was smart, it was well written, well shot, well acted. There's a lot of little things that we talked about on the way home.
mhm.
I don't know, it was just really enjoyable. I had a great time.
Yeah. There were a lot of homages, I'd
Yeah.
say, to various films. Obviously, one you guys are all going to be aware of going into this already is Groundhog's Day. But I found even that, like, there were some little things here and there that kind of were parallels with that film that I didn't even think of until after getting out of the theater, so they weren't really, like, blatant or in your face, but it was just a hint of it enough so it kind of made it interesting, and it shown that the writer was familiar with that work, familiar with obviously the fact that this the one element to the film is like the same as what's going on in that film, and made a little kind of nods to it here and there, which was cool. But there are definitely a lot of other nods to other films in one way or another in this film.
One of the play off that, one of some of the most blatant, obvious references, or at least references, was over and over again via the Groundhog's Day repetition. We're seeing one of the characters' dorm rooms, and this character, like us, is a film fan, especially horror, and so you see a lot of posters of films who we've probably seen.
Mm.
I know some of we have, and that was cool. Another thing, one of the little things we're talking about is that fact that that guy was just an average guy. He looked like you and me. He wasn't some gorgeous, stereotypical hunk of manliness.
Mm-hmm.
He was just some average guy who looked like a college student. As did the girl. She was very pretty, arguably gorgeous, but she still looked reasonably like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
As did the other girls in her sorority.
Yeah. Kitty, you got anything to add? Not much. There were some jump scares in this movie, but they were followed by something. They weren't just like, boo,
This is
nothing.
The thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like the jump scares in this film almost entirely, if not entirely, but at least from recollection, almost entirely were like served the film.
Yes.
They weren't just like gimmicky. Oh, buddy. Um, trying to think what else.
You mentioned a good thing just before we started shooting about the rating. If you wanna.
Oh yeah. So this film might discourage a lot of people that it's rated PG-13, but the film is written really well in a way that it makes you feel like it's an R film, even though it's not. Like for instance, I noticed like things. People's like dialogue sounded a lot more like vulgar than it was, just the way it was written. Or like there's this one scene in the film where you see this big old bong just sitting in the room, and the protagonist even like looks at it and stuff, and but nobody smokes anything, so they're not gonna give it an R rating just for that. But it gives you kind of like the feel that you're in an R-rated movie.
It's also implied sexuality, tons of it, but you don't see anything.
Yeah.
There's not tons of, but there is implied nudity in one scene in particular, and you don't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it actually it really feels like there was a like sex going on in that movie, but there really wasn't at all. Even like there's an implied like porno at one point, but
it's
there's
like
fully
the beginning.
clothed.
Yeah,
like,
it's at the beginning.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten to the actual porno bit.
Yeah.
Right now it's still like a really bad soap opera.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you were worried about the PG-13 rating, and I felt a little iffy about that fact, don't be worried, because it's still very much on like an R level. But I think that just comes back to just in general, it felt like it was really, really well written. Save for, there was one part, and I'm not gonna, it's towards the end, I'm not gonna like explain it or anything. It's not the end, it's not the beginning, kind of towards the end, but if you watch it, you might know what I'm referring to. It felt lazily written to me almost.
I personally didn't mind it, but that's just me.
I feel like a lot of people won't mind it. I don't think it's not. I like this film. Irregardless of that little bit right there, it didn't ruin it for me, and it wasn't very long. It was maybe like a minute and a half of the film, if that.
And it needed to be in there in some way. They could have maybe done it differently, but they needed it.
The information you needed to know. The delivery of the information I thought was poorly done. But other than that, like literally almost the entire rest of the film felt well written. Yeah, I was impressed all around.
Same.
They did a lot of like referencing and little nods to other films, like we mentioned, but there were very infrequent like just like bad cliches or just like overused tropes, I guess.
I mean, some tropes were turned on their heads.
Yeah.
Which you'll find out.
Yeah. But nothing like I don't know, just like tired and worn out.
This film felt very fresh.
Yeah. Despite the fact that really like all of the elements that went into the film, like
we've seen before.
Every element really that went into this film you've seen before.
Which I think is the biggest achievement of it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still I don't know. It felt like some of the elements, like you had a lot of like we mentioned we were talking 90s slasher type elements, for instance, mixed in with Groundhog's Day. Like even though we're familiar with all that, you've never seen that all together. I don't think anyway.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good, and what was one other thing? I have one other thing to add. Oh yeah, I think as we mentioned, it's funny. It's very funny. At least we found it to be.
Yeah.
Humor. Well, I mean, you could probably call this a horror comedy. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny.
It's like a horror rom-com,
Yeah.
which is
That's that.
it's literally like has that like
Mm-hmm.
skeleton kind of
Yeah.
Groundhog Day, but it's horror, but it just oddly doesn't feel like they just took Groundhog Day and put a slasher in it. Even though you could, like, on very surface level, like if you're just explaining like, all right, here's what happened, you could say, oh yeah, it was like that. But
Yeah, go check it out. It's a good film,
Yeah.
and it's worth your time.
yeah. Oh, another thing I just thought about, which is a plus for most people out there, I think, that are like film fans like us. There was like little CGI in this,
Yeah.
especially in important areas.
Mhm.
Very little, especially like distracting. Kind of like there was nothing that felt like it was out of like a PlayStation movie or something, or PlayStation game or something like that. It all, pretty much all of it looked like very, like it was just being filmed on a camera, because there wasn't really much CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it I didn't think the film was perfect, but it gets my seal of approval. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I think it was one of the best horror films that I've seen this year.
Same.
Probably not the best, but it was among them.
Well, yeah.
For
It's up
sure. So definitely think it's worth your time, especially October.
Yep.
Go see it, Halloween, or something around there. I think I'm rambling.
Do it up
but,
seasonally.
yeah. Check it out. And keep it psychic, keep it real.